right, it's Saturday the 21st, back here at Casino Matrix in San Jose. Just sat down a short little while ago, and before hopping back into the tables to put in a grind, I just want to run through a few hands from last week played at Lucky Chances Casino. These first several hands take place on Friday the 13th. I'm in under the gun. I've got ace queen offsuit. I raise it to $20 and I get 3 callers. Multi-way to a flop of queen 8-7, 2 clubs and a diamond. I c-bet $50 and only middle position calls. Turn comes a jack of diamonds, making the board a bit more draw heavy. We're playing about 750 effective from here. I decide to size up on the turn, $150. She doesn't think too long and makes the call. River is a pretty bad card. It comes a 10 of diamonds. I do got the nut flush blocker, but it's got a 1-liner to the straight and backdoor diamonds do get there. So I check it and she quickly jams $600. So no real decision here, no real option, just gotta let it go. If she had bet maybe $200, something along those lines, I could have maybe considered turning my hand into a bluff knowing that she does not have the pure nuts, but when she jams on the river there, I don't know that there's really any hand that I can beat there. So that hand took place a couple hours into the session, playing on a pretty action heavy table, but just couldn't get anything going and was stuck in the neighborhood of $600 or $700. Just was whiffing quite a bit, and when I finally was able to connect with the board with a hand like ace queen, the board doesn't run out too good. Despite wanting to stay on that table, I figured it was smart to just table change and try to get after it at a different table. And I was able to bounce back a little bit. Pretty straightforward hands that got me like around $400 or $500 back. So I was only stuck $200 when this next hand happens. It's a straddle pot. I'm in under the gun with ace king of spades. I raise it to $35. There are 3 callers, and then it gets to the button who puts in a 3-bet, a rather small one, to $140. He's paying about $1,300, and I decided to bump it up here. I put in a 4-bet to $350. Other players fold, and the button pretty quickly calls. We're playing about 900 to 1,000 effective from here. Heads up to a flop of 8-5-4 with 2 hearts. He decides to check it, and my plan was to pretty much c-bet on pretty much any flop except for this one. With a board like 8-5-4 with 2 hearts, it's just not a good board for my specific hand holding here. And while it looks super weak to check, that's what I decided to do. I'm ranging him on a hand somewhere between 9 through jack. So I think if I bet it, I'm not exactly sure that he's folding, particularly because he's shown a propensity to be pretty sticky. And yeah, kind of just sort of give up based on this flop. Not the ideal play. The turn comes a 3 of hearts, and this time he leads $310. I make the snap fold, and he turns over queen jack of spades. So yeah, I got bluffed out of my shoes there. Really nice play on his part. I definitely thought he was probably the best and most capable player at the table. That said, I didn't realize how much game he had until he made that particular play. So he clearly had some evil intentions when he decided to call the 4-bet pre, and definitely read my situation correctly when I decided to check that flop as in terms of it looking weak. And so nice play by him, and he takes his hand down. This next hand is a straddle pot, and the aforementioned player is in middle position. He raises to $35. I decided to just call on the low jack with ace queen of diamonds. Can certainly put in a 3-bet here, but taking a bit of a lower variance route against this player. The straddler makes the call as well. We go 3 ways to a flop of jack 9 deuce rainbow. Action checks through. Turn comes an ace of spades. Middle position puts out a bet of $60, and only I make the call. The river comes a 3 of diamonds. He checks it. I decide to try to go for some thin value. I bet $80, and he doesn't call. He doesn't fold. He puts in a check raise to $320, and I actually just quickly let it go. Sort of got this feeling that I felt like I was beat, and I think for 2 reasons. I think 1, the check raise river bluff is one of the hardest plays to make in no limit hold'em, so I had that kind of factored in. And 2, because this player bluffed me earlier, I just feel like it's more difficult for players to bluff you 2 times in a row, especially when they run a pretty nice bluff earlier in the session. So those 2 factors considered, I just make the pretty nitty fold here and lose this hand as well. So yeah, I butcher those 2 hands. I think a form of winner's tilt might have creeped into my game. I wasn't winning yet in that session, but because I was starting to bounce back a bit, I think there was a little bit of expectation tilt when I played the hand with ace king of spades. Admittedly, I sort of just expected to start running better and didn't really prepare for what I was going to do the rest of that hand, and then kind of affected my play a little bit and adjusting maybe in the wrong way and playing the ace queen of diamonds not optimally as well. So I think at least I was cognizant of it though. So in recognizing that I wasn't playing particularly well, I did rack up shortly after. I did fit in 1 decently well played hand, opened it up to $35 in a straddle pot from under the gun with 9-10 of clubs. I got 2 late position callers, 3 ways to a flop of 5-5 deuce with 1 club. I c-bet it for $70. One player tank folded and the other player quickly folded. The player that tank folded today had pocket 7, so nice to just maintain range advantage in that spot. given that I had 9-10, it's unlikely that anybody has pocket 9s, pocket 10s, and because there was no 3-bet pre, I could rule out jacks plus there. So good hand holding, I think, to c-bet it there, particularly with some backdoor equity as well, and was able to take that one down. So that wrapped up that session on Friday the 13th. Was out of the game, lost $700, and hopped back there the next day, and did hop into the 1-2 game since I was waiting for the 3-5 game. It's not a game that I play really ever anymore, but there was one semi-interesting hand from the 1-2 session. So the 1-2 game, my lucky chances is a little bit interesting. It's a $200 cap, and to enter a pot, it's actually $4. So it's a pretty shallow stacked game. And in this one interesting hand, we're playing a 7-way limped pot. I've got 8-10 of diamonds on the small blind, and we go heavily multi-way to a flop of ace-9 deuce with 2 diamonds. Checks the middle position, he bets $16. Late position player calls, and I call. Turn is a good one. It comes a queen of diamonds, so I make the flush. Check it over to middle position, he bets $45. Late position goes all in for $50. The middle position player only has another $100 back, so I raise it up to $150. He tanks for a little while, and he open folds ace-jack offsuit with a jack of diamonds. So just going heads up against the other player, shorter stacked, that went all in. And the river comes a king of diamonds. We both table our hands, and he shows 5-6 of diamonds. Happy that middle position didn't get stubborn there and jam that turn after I raised it. I think the one small lesson learned in a 1-2 game is just play for value, I think. And if you got a hand, you just got to go with it. I think that's the best way to make some money in the 1-2 game, particularly at lucky chances. The only other one interesting hand took place playing 3-5. There's an early position raise to $20. I call him middle position with jack 10 of spades. Hijacking cutoff call, and then small blind puts in a small 3-bet to $70. He covers the rest of us. We're all playing about 500 effective, and the initial raiser quickly folds. I've got a pretty good hand that plays decently well, multi-way, I think. So I make the call, and the other 2 players call as well. 4 ways to a flop of 7-8-9 with 2 hearts. So flop the nuts here. Small blind thinks it through for a little bit, jams all in, and he covers all of us. I make the call, and the other 2 players fold. The board runs out a queen and an 8. We table our hands, and he shows ace-9 offsuit. So yeah, take that one down. Nice to book a win following a pretty poor showing on that Friday, and ended up winning in that session about $550. Nice short session there. The other highlight was that there was a player eating potato chips with chopsticks. You can definitely appreciate that for a couple of reasons. One, the skill to be able to do that, and 2, just his courtesy to not get the cards greasy. So shout out to that guy. And the only other thing to mention was the following day on Sunday the 15th, I ended up playing the weekly Sunday tournament again, 260 buy-in, busted my first bullet, and then fired a second bullet. And when it came down to 30 players left was when it was a pretty crucial point. There was an under the gun raise. I can't remember the stacks or the exact suits, but there was a raise from under the gun, tightest player on the table, I think. Cutoff jammed all in. It would have been for my entire stack. I was on the button with pocket queens, and I ended up making an exploitative fold there. Under the gun jammed as well, and the players table the kings versus jacks. The board, I think, ran out 7-6 deuce, jack, king. So was never winning that one, and was able to dodge a bullet there, and just navigated a 15 big blind stack throughout most of the tournament. Ultimately got into 12 players. The tournament was paying 10 places. There was 103 entries. There was a proposal to pay 2 bubbles, but one player declined that, and so we had to keep playing. One other player got knocked out, and then when we got to 11-handed, someone made the proposal again to pay out 1 bubble, and that was agreed upon. And that worked out well because I ended up busting in 11th place to get back $340. So book a little bit of a loss there, but nice to, I think, make a deep run and get some practice in for future tournaments. And that was pretty much it for that weekend of poker. Some ups and downs, some things to be learned. And yeah, as mentioned, back here at Casino Matrix today, back on the grind. And we'll come back to you all with some hands from here. Okay, just closing out a session here from Casino Matrix. Played 7 hours, got a few hands to run through. In this first hand, there are 2 limps. I'm in the hijack with ace-4 of spades. I raise it to $30, and I only get a call from the button. Heads up to a pretty good looking flop of ace-queen-10 with 2 spades. I c-bet it for $25, and he makes the call. The turn comes a 4 of clubs, giving me 2 pair. He's only got $225 back, and I decided to check here, hoping to induce him to bet and just get the rest of the money in there. but unfortunately he checks back. The river comes a jack of diamonds, not a good card, but I decided to fire out a small bet, $30 for a mix of thin value and a bit of a blocker bet. He thinks about it for a little bit and he puts in a raise to $130. So I think he can only really be doing that with a king in his hand. So after he makes that raise, I just snap fold and lose this one. This next hand, under the gun, 1 limps, middle position raises to $25, low jack and small blind call. I call in the big blind with 2 black 8s and it gets back to under the gun 1. He decides to repop it to $125 with 120 back. The 2 middle position players fold. Small blind calls and he covers me. I'm playing about $700 here. If small blind didn't call, I probably would have just jammed since under the gun 1 only had so little back. But because small blind calls, I figure I can flat here and navigate boards here, particularly because this player has slashed around a little bit. He's been on the recreational side. So happy to, I think, play in position against this player. So I make the call. We go 3 ways to a flop of 6-5 deuce rainbow. We check it over to the initial raiser and he checks it back. Turn comes a 10 of hearts, check it to the initial raiser again, and this time he jams all in for 120. Small blind makes a pretty quick fold, and I call given the price, and it's a mistake because he quickly announces that he has a pair of 10s. The board runs out, a 6 of hearts, and I wait for him to show his hand, and after pausing for a bit, he mentions that he misread his hand and he turns over king 9 offsuit. So I take it down here with the pocket 8s. I make a mistake by making the wrong call, but then get bailed out here. This next hand I'm under the gun with pocket aces and I raise it to $20. I get calls from middle position and the big blind. We go 3 ways to a flop of jack 10 8 with 2 hearts, pretty connected board. And when big blind checks it, I decide to check it here for pot control, and middle position puts out a bet of $30 and we both make the call. Turn comes a king of spades. We check it to the flop aggressor and he checks it back. The river comes a 9 of clubs and it checks over to the flop aggressor. He fires out a bet of $45. Big blind folds, and despite there being a 1 line into the straight, I kind of just shrug and call, and he tables pocket 6s. So take this hand down, take a pretty conservative line in this hand, and I think I won the maximum. I certainly don't recommend playing aces this way all the time, but was fortunate that it worked out this time. All right, this next hand is a slightly adventurous one. I'm in the hijack with a 7-8 offsuit. I raise it to $20 and I get calls from the button and both of the blinds. 4 ways to a flop of 10-10-5 rainbow. Action checks through, turn comes a 4. Action checks to the button, he puts out a bet of $35. Both of the blinds fold, and I've got a gut shot here, and I sense a little bit of weakness from this particular player. Can't really explain all of the live table dynamics, but he started to, I think, show some disinterest in the hand as far as talking to some other people. So I kind of perceive this as weakness, and I decided to raise it here as a bluff, and I raise it to $125. He tanks for a little bit and decides to let it go. So good result there, take it down with the 8 high. And this next hand I've got 7-9 of spades from under the gun and I raise it to $20. I get calls from the cutoff and both of the blinds. 4 ways to a flop of 10-7 deuce rainbow. So flat middle pair here with backdoor draws available. Action checks through. Turn comes a 4 of spades, so I pick up the backdoor flush draw. Small blind leads for $40. I decide to make the call after big blind folds, and the cutoff puts in a raise to $140. Small blind folds, and the player in the cutoff is someone I have a lot of history with. He's a very aggressive player. I've been playing with him for many years now, dating back to my time playing at Garden City Casino when I was attending college at San Jose State University. And with my exact hand here, it's a pure continue, so I just make the call. The river comes a jack of diamonds, and I check it over to him, and he decides to check it back. So table my hand, and it is good here. So yeah, happy that he checked it back on the river and didn't show any additional aggression. If he did bet it though, I'm not exactly sure what I would have done. Obviously it would have depended a little bit on sizing, and I think it would have been a 50-50 in terms of whether I would have found the hero call or not. But nevertheless, happy to take this one down. So that wraps it up for this session. As mentioned, played 7 hours and was pretty smooth sailing for the most part. Did hit a couple of bumps along the way, but never really lost any large pots and played pretty disciplined throughout, aside from the few times where I deviated a bit and opened a little bit light, but fortunately was able to navigate those situations profitably and was in the game for $700, cashed out for $1,342. So a profit of $642 to wrap up this session here. And I think that's going to do it for 2019. All right, just a few more things to wrap up this video, wrap up the year. It's certainly around this time to do some reflection, think about things that you're grateful for. And I recently came across an article on the gamblingsites.org website. It was written by Michael Stevens. It's an article about poker vloggers, and he was kind enough to give me a nice little bit of recognition there amongst a list of some really fantastic vloggers. So I'll drop a link in the description box below in case any of you are interested in checking that article out. And the reason I mention it is because I've been thinking about this journey so far, this vlog project on YouTube. I mentioned it in vlog 3 when I talk about a little bit of my background, how I'm a bit introverted, and the fact that just starting this project to begin with was a huge step. And while I'm still pretty quiet on the tables nowadays, you'd be hard pressed to find me saying maybe even more than 5 words over the course of a full session prior to the vlog. Where I'm going with all of this is that if there's a project that you're thinking about starting that may have the potential to bring yourself some net positive as well as those around you, then I think you should definitely take that risk. Definitely put yourself out there, whether it be a vlog project, something else you've been thinking about. It's probably no surprise, but the notable early pioneers in the poker vlogging industry certainly helped to inspire me to start my own channel. And there's actually another YouTuber named Jay Shetty. He doesn't do poker vlogs, he does inspirational and motivational videos. And he's also a big influence and a big inspiration for starting this poker vlog. He talks about aligning your passion with your purpose. The passion is for yourself and the purpose is for the service of others. And for me, my passion, or one of my passions, is poker. And the purpose through this YouTube avenue is to hopefully create some educational, enjoyable, and hopefully inspirational content for all of you. It all does come a bit full circle for me. A tidbit outside of poker to share is that when I started college, I was placed in remedial English. Really embarrassed to say the least, but took that opportunity to learn and grow. I was fortunate to have a really inspirational and encouraging professor, was able to make strides, and ultimately got recommended to work as a tutor for the Reading and ESL Center on campus. And yeah, it was a nice cross-section of a positive influence with some self-improvement. And you feel that personally, but you really start to gain a lot of that appreciation when you start to pay it forward. Anyhow, that's sort of the behind the scenes motivational approach as it relates to poker and vlogging. A couple of quick things to touch on for the start of next year. Going to be putting in a vlogging session at a new location for the vlog in January, and currently in the mix with several other poker vloggers discussing some collaborative opportunities to do something in February. So more info on both of those as we head into the next year. But yeah, that's going to do it for this one. Just want to sincerely thank you all for tuning into the videos, being part of this journey, first full calendar year on YouTube, and nothing but pure gratitude. And again, if there's a project that you're thinking about starting, what better time to do it than the new year? And with that, happy holidays. See you all in 2020.